It's Mike Stibbs.
Just make sure it sounds sexy, Stibbs.
Lord Almighty, how can you stand Arizona? Your fair skin must be burning down into your absent soul. Mike, 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 we can barely hear you. It sounds to me like you called us from inside a hole. But your phone calls lift me higher, like the ERA of Mark Pryor. Your hair looks like it's on fire. You're Mike Ferrin. You're just a hunk of burning love.
We missed you last week, Mike.
Yeah, we had an early start yesterday or last Tuesday, so it was tough. We were on the air, the game was just starting as I was supposed to be on with you. So
that's
sorry I missed you.
We forgive you.
We forgive you.
I forgive you, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Oh, no problem.
I saw a news release today from Major League Baseball. No, it's actually good news for a change. Viewership on the MLB TV app and platform was up 12% versus the first 18 days of last season.
I thought people were boycotting baseball. They're back in?
The last time we could have an actual one-to-one comparison when we actually started a season in April, up 43% from the same 18-day period as 2019. And of course, there's a lot of different reasons. More people are cutting the cord. More people are relying on streaming in that way to watch sports.
Does this count illegal streams?
No, this is just the actual MLB. People who are
just
like
asking.
me who have a legal, albeit free,
that's right, because it's Sprint or whatever.
Thank you, T-Mobile Tuesdays.
Yeah.
But how much should we glean from this in terms of the popularity of the sport?
I wouldn't take a ton out of it because remember, this is all out of market streaming. So this is for in the case of somebody in Iowa, you can't actually watch anybody because you're blacked out from like 7 different teams. But let's say you're a Diamondbacks fan in Iowa. You've benefited from the fact that they've been playing West Coast teams, and so you're not blacked out because I think they're blacked out from literally like 7 teams, and one of them I think is the Marlins for some reason. But,
no, in Iowa, you got Twins, Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers, White Sox,
Royals.
6 teams.
Did you say Cardinals?
Yes.
Yeah. So 6.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So I think it's probably more about displaced fans than anything. I think the fact that it's up 12% from last year is interesting in that I feel like viewership was down across all sports last year just because everything was in different spots and clearly we all had more important things to deal with. So, and I do think that the number of cord cutters has probably changed, to your point, John, since in 2019. So there's a tough analog. The biggest issue, I think, is that it's not even with the blackout rules. It's that there are a number of the regional sports networks, and specifically the ones that are owned by Sinclair, which are now what used to be the Fox Sports and now the Bally Sports, and also the AT&T properties, which are either called AT&T or Root, which no longer have in-market streaming deals with carriers like YouTube TV or Hulu Right. And so those places have made it very difficult for you to be a cord cutter and watch your favorite team. And it affects baseball maybe the most because there's the most amount, the largest volume of games. But this has impacted the NBA. It's impacted the NHL as well. Basically anything that would be on a regional sports network, the fact that they haven't been able to do deals with that is an issue. And it doesn't sound like anything is going to happen. What's likely to happen is next year they will launch their own over-the-top service. And then actually I think that works well for consumer because then you can just kind of pay for it if you want it, as opposed to let's say somebody listening to this program is listening for your winning personality and not because they're a sports fan. Then you're not paying, $6 a month on your cable or streaming for a sports channel that you don't actually want or use because that's the way it all gets wrapped together.
Do you see anything happening with the blackout restrictions in the near future with an MLB.TV?
No, because those are all kind of baked into the contracts, the TV contracts. So what they do is they're a little bit more complicated than just saying, "Hey, lift the blackout rule." What they do is they're designed to protect the local rights holder, right? So, so unless the local rights holder can find a way to be able to make the money that they would, through say the MLB TV app, like if you were to charge an extra, I don't know. I mean, this is theoretical. I don't know if this would even work, but like, let's say it's $130 for the MLB subscription, but if you want to pay $180, you can get the games in market too. Maybe that's a way to do it because that would replace what you're getting on cable, but I'm not sure that there's been any discussion to that point. It's supposed to protect them and their advertisers, and they have the in-market streaming rights. So in the case of let's say you're a traditional like DirecTV customer, you could get, I'm assuming Marquee is in your area, right? So like you could get Marquee on that or Marquee would be a good one because they're actually owned by Sinclair. And so they have an app that you can watch through if you're a regular subscriber. So that's kind of how it works. It's sad because it really is extremely frustrating. And it's frustrating, especially in those spots. I have a lot of empathy for people who are baseball fans in places like Iowa or North Carolina where they're blocked out from 6 and 7 teams. Vegas is another spot. But there's just not been an acceptable workaround that's been figured out that's profitable for everybody involved. And in the end, as we know, it's all about profits because as soon as you don't think you're going to make billions of dollars, you pull out of the Super League.
Super League!
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Brian Cashman says the Yankees aren't going to overreact to this 5-10 start, but how concerning is it that after Garrett Cole, the rest of the Yankees rotation right now is kind of
I'm not actually real concerned about it. I mean, I think, Jordan Montgomery's pitched fairly well, a little bit better than what the line looks like. And Tyone is coming back from a second Tommy John, and he's shown flashes. Kluber's results haven't lined up with his stuff to this point. So I think, it's been a big point of discussion over the last 2 days because I don't know if you know this, but things tend to get blown out of proportion in New York, especially when it comes to sports. I know. Huh. Really hard to believe that would be the case. So they're freaking out at a 5-10 start. Never mind that they started, I think it was 5-9 2 years ago and won 103 games. So none of this matters.
Are the Mariners the best baseball team of all time?
Oh, here we go.
If they're at least the best baseball team based in Seattle in the calendar year 2021.
Will they win the World Series in 4 games or 5?
They will win their internal World Series where they play their minor leaguers.
Is this another
It's a good start
situation?
Yeah, no. I don't think that they're gonna I don't think that the good news is they're not in jeopardy of being relegated either. But
they're fun to watch.
It's a lot different than even the start. What was it, 3 years ago, right? Where they got off to that crazy 13-2 start and we were all like, it's not gonna last.
Well, you were.
And he was proven right. He was proven right.
It's not going to last, but it's not going to last in a different way. And that is that this is a far more competitive team. They're far closer to their window of contention being open. This should be a really fun team in the second half. And yeah, there is that chance that there's a better chance of them being a surprise team through the first 2 months of the season, getting internal reinforcements and being competitive throughout the year than that team was. So from that standpoint, I do think it's a real positive. I mean, they're moving in the right direction. And I think at some point you're going to see Kelenic and Logan Gilbert come up. Jared Kelenic, the outfielder from Wisconsin, and Logan Gilbert was a first rounder in 2018 who's a very good starting pitcher, and I think that they're going to have an impact on the season. There may be some ups and downs, as there are with every young player, but I think there are things to start getting excited about if you're a Mariners fan.
And part of it, though, is
let's go Mariners.
The Astros, of course, were so good in that division. They've come back to the pack.
Oh, man.
The Angels have improved. The Athletics are still kind of, the Athletics are either winning 6 in a row or they're losing 6 in a row. Depends on which week you catch them on. But part of this too is the division has kind of gone through a metamorphosis of sorts, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a transitional year for the American League West. So, and I actually think Texas is kind of an interesting team. And I argue this a lot. I don't think they have a lot of pitching depth, but they've gone out and added younger veteran position players to try and win jobs or to try and take advantage of the fact that they've got guys like Nate Lowe and David Dahl as part of their group now that they're going to have for a couple of years that they can help to build around. So it's a different division. You're right. It's a much more competitive top to bottom division than it was for years when it was the Astros division and everybody was playing for second, with the exception of, the A's made a couple runs in there and ran into some bad luck with some really good teams that they had to go to wild card games. But I really still like Oakland's team. I think despite some of the losses that they had, both in free agency this winter and also with the injury to Trevor Rosenthal, I think they're still a pretty strong team overall.
So, Mike, on the opposite end of the spectrum of the Mariners, the Chicago Cubs, saw a story today from Jesse Rogers. Their 192 batting average, among the worst all time through 15 games. Some hilarious quotes in there about the batting issues at the plate, mind-boggling, a mystery, and it's hard to figure. How would you try to explain their issues at the plate so far this season?
Well, it's something that they haven't really addressed over the last 4 years when they knew that it was an issue 4 years ago. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that what's the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And they've been expecting different results with this core group of players and they haven't gotten it. I mean, I think they're all better players and what their numbers have shown to this point, but I just think that's, I don't think they get a pass. I don't think Theo gets a pass for the last couple of years because he identified that it was an issue. They just weren't willing to make deals to upset the apple cart or to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic in an effort to try something different for the sake of trying it different. They had values on their players and they didn't want to trade them unless they were going to get that value. So I don't know. I think it's, they're stuck in a rut a little bit and they need to start finding some answers offensively. I mean, I think, there's been a lot wrten about Baez and I think a lot of it is timing issues with him. I think Rizzo and Bryant will probably end up being fine. I think they'll be a solid offensive team, but I don't think that they're going to end up being the world beaters that we thought they were going to be for 5 or 6 seasons, when they started this run in 2015.
You're not going to affect me. I know what you're trying to do here.
I just wanted to read those quotes. Also,
I know you did.
Jock Peterson just said about their offensive and team woes, it's not fun when you're sucking and you're losing. Pretty solid take.
I mean, if you suck and win, you can deal with the sucking.
Right? Exactly. Exactly.
On the opposite end of suck.
The Mariners again?
No, there's Ronald Acuna.
Okay.
Now, I know that he's got an abdominal strain. He's day-to-day, but he was hitting .419 and had been on base 13 straight games. And I know it's a different era. Hitters approach the plate differently than they did back in the day. But if there ever was in today's game a guy that could hit 400 or threaten 400, is Acuna the best candidate we've got?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's that kind of hitter in the end. I mean, his chase rate has gone way down, which is really good. Like, I think that there's some encouraging things about him taking the next step. And I think he's he has the potential to be as complete a player as there is in baseball. He's my favorite to watch. I love Acuna. So, I mean, I'm an unabashed fan. But I think in terms of I think you need to be a pure hitter in order to do it. And I think you need to be able to hit with impact. Juan Soto with Washington is probably the popular choice in that, although he hasn't hit over 300 in a full season yet. He had a very good 2020 campaign, but it was truncated. So I think Soto probably is the guy that would get the most votes. I just don't think Acuna is that kind of guy. And I think it's tough to find guys that hit 360. I mean, everybody's throwing 100 miles an hour. So like the guy who probably has the chance to hit for the highest average, albeit a bit empty, is Arise with Minnesota. I mean, he's just a really good hitter, but he doesn't have the impact. And if you think about the guys that have hit 400, it's it's like Ted Williams, George Brett came close. Tony Gwynn is probably the most single-ish hitter out of them, although that was a fairly big doubles year for him when he hit 394 or whatever it was in the strike year. Rogers Hornsby. I mean, those were complete offensive players. They weren't just like high average hitters. They were guys that had a little bit of pop too. So I think it's probably Soto, but I don't know that I would necessarily I don't know that I would put anything on that, and I'm not sure I would take the field either in that bet.
Is that a more unbreakable benchmark than 56 games today?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I mean, I think it's probably, I don't want to say it's easy to get 56 consecutive games. Yes,
no one's come close in 40 years.
I mean, it's like with the closest since then is when was
Rose was what
44,
and that was in 78.
I feel like there was a guy within the last decade that got to like the high 30s.
Yeah, well, Molitor got to 39. Molitor got to 39. That was the one that I really remember. That was in probably 86 or 87.
We're talking 35 years there.
Jeez.
So, it just doesn't happen very often. I mean, again, guys are throwing harder than ever before. Like the next time somebody complains about hitters and strikeouts to you, just remind them that everyone is throwing 100 now. Like it's really difficult to do. I think it's probably not easy to do either of those things. I mean, that's why we haven't seen them. It's been 80 years since we've seen somebody hit 400. So, and he was the only guy that did it for what, it was 40 years almost. Well, 20 years almost.
20 years.
Hornsby was that, and even then you have to look at like the batting average in the era that Hornsby was playing in. I mean, it was significantly higher. One of those years, I think the league hit 290. So, it's a good question. I don't know that. I think I would guess that 56 might be easier than hitting 400, but I don't think either of them are going to be particularly easy for a full season.
Mike, forgive me, but I can't remember exactly when there was a situation with the Buffalo Bills recently and announcing that if they were going to have full attendance, everyone would have to be vaccinated. I think that was after we had you on last, and I wasn't here for that.
Yes, it was.
And that was a county decision.
That was a county decision.
Do you see a franchise inside of baseball doing this or trying to do this where, hey, we're going to have full capacity, and if you're going to show up, you have to be fully vaccinated? Do you see anybody trying this at any point this year?
I don't think that they're going to do that. I think you will see full capacities within the next month to 6 weeks in some places, or at least that being allowed. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anybody's going to put a vaccination passport or something on that to do it. I don't think that is in the makeup of the ownership groups of teams. Now, if you're in a city where that is required of you, that's a different story. I mean, there the county took over, right? So, I guess theoretically you could see that, but generally what ends up happening is that the teams are working together with cities and counties to be able to create the rules for fan engagement or for how many fans are allowed in. And so I think I don't think any ownership group is going to push for that.
Well, we've got, I don't have anything to root for this year. I'm just watching because I'm watching.
Root for the Mariners. It's fun.
Root for somebody hitting 400.
No, I feel so bad for you, John.
I know you do. I know you feel awful. Actually, what I'm rooting for are more Dodger Padre games. If we could just have Dodgers and Padres.
Hey, get them again this weekend. And then after this weekend, there's only 13 to go. So get them while they're hot.
This has been a fun series, though. I mean, these two teams do not like each other.
No, and they're both really good.
And they're both good. They're, the Padres are especially young, but the Dodgers have plenty of young talent. These guys dislike each other for a while.
Joking with somebody the other day about it. I said, you got to imagine being the Padres and you put together this great roster and take your best shot and you still finish 12 games behind the Dodgers. I mean, Dodgers are really good.
I know. Go ahead, Stibbs. Say it.
No comment.
No comment. Wow. A new Stibbs.
Get one little win.
New Happy Gilmore.
Not going to send out any tweets.
No, I did that last night.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, we'll let Stibbs enjoy his month and a half of success, and then the
I ordered a
Memorial
hat.
Day before we know.
I ordered a hat last night because there was the
one that says we beat the Dodgers.
20% off on Fanatics, so I took advantage of a fun night and ordered a hat.
Wow, that's great. Well, here's hoping you have a great afternoon too, and you spend some more money that you don't have.
Yeah. Did you get the old school hat with the tri?
No, I have that one already. So I went with the traditional one. I haven't had one of those in a while. So
okay, good.
Dude, they get the electric blue and off-white Sundays. They have to wear those all the time. That should be their home uniform. That's the best uniform in baseball.
I like the navy teal, but those are cool too.
I don't like the navy teal. Not on the navy teal.
Thanks for joining us, Ferrin.
And on that note,
bye, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
See you next week, boys.
There he is,
Bye-bye.
Mike Ferrin of Sirius XM MLB Radio and the Diamondbacks Radio Network.
You're buying a hat. You don't even wear hats anymore.
Yeah.
Not here, I don't.
I haven't seen you in a hat, and it seems like since 2021 arrived.
What's wrong with wearing a hat?
Our old boss called it dopey.
Wow.
Wait, what?
No more of those dopey hats.
Yes, sir.
What?
Wow.
I
Was
didn't
he
think
Trump?
any of your hats
President T?
were dopey.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but your guys' are, but mine are cool as hell.
That's not true, Stips.
What are you talking about?
Once again, this
Well, his
old
dopey, it's a
school
cowboy one.
mindset of you have to look a certain way if you're going to be a certain person.
Did you brush your hair this morning?
Unreal.
I don't even own a hairbrush.
You don't?
I don't think I do.
You have
The-
a comb?
The leader
Probably
of the free
somewhere.
world over the last 4 years, he wore a hat all the time.
A hideous one.
A horrible hat, but he wore one
Oh, yeah.
nonetheless.
Speaking of that, Josh owes us wearing the hat because he was
No,
wrong
I
on his
don't. I
prediction.
never agreed to this. Never agreed. I said that people could throw
We
snowballs
never
at me.
agreed to allow you to tell lies on our radio program.
Uh-huh.
That, well, never mind.
Well, tomorrow we'll make it up to you.
Take it. You can throw snowballs at me with all the snow that fell. Come on, stop by 50th and Dodge and throw snowballs at me with the snow.
Or if you happen to find a chunk of concrete.
Don't do that, John. I don't want to die. My life's not that bad. It's kind of crappy, but it's not that
Yes,
bad.
but our lives are bad because you keep telling us things. Bad things.
Well, coming up next, are we going to talk practice and I'll tell you more things?
Sure, why not? You can give us a call, too, on the Share Omaha's Do Good Zone hotline. It's Do Good Week, presented by Share Omaha, 402-951-1620. We're back in a moment on 1620 The Zone.